What is going on, skaters? I'm Cameron from Adam Skates, and today I'm presenting to you a how-to tutorial on swapping your Atom Viper nylon plates for Falcon alloy plates. All the items you will find when you open your Falcon plate box are your Falcon plates, 4 trucks, 4 bottom bushings, 4 top bushings, 4 white pivot cups, 4 bottom bushing washers, 4 top bushing washers, 4 bushing lock washers, 4 Kingpin micro adjustable nuts, and 8 axle lock nuts. And in this last photo, we have 4 69mm plate screws, 8 35mm plate screws, 12 small washers, and 12 plate nuts. Everything you see in this photo here is included with the purchase of Falcon plates. It is really important that if you are considering switching from a nylon plate to an alloy plate, there's no difference in size here. You're going to want to buy the same size plate as the plate that's already on your boot. So, first things first, before we get into this how-to video, you're going to need whatever skates you're planning on putting your Falcon plates on and your new Falcon plates. The tools you will need for this tutorial are a socket wrench, or in my case, an electric hand drill with a socket attachment, a 3/8 socket, a 9/16 socket, a Phillips head screwdriver, a break-off tool, or a pair of pliers. And for this step in the video, you don't have to completely take apart your plates, but we always recommend it. It makes it a little easier. So if you don't know how to completely take apart your plates, take that 9/16 socket I told you about earlier, unscrew these 2 top Kingpin nuts. After those are off, you'll take off your top washer and your bushing, and then after that, your truck should just pull right off. Don't worry about taking the wheels and bearings off, they'll come off with the truck. So now that we have all the components taken off our nylon plates, we're going to set the components over to the side so we can get into the next step. So now that we have everything taken off our plates, I can grab my 3/8 socket so I can get ready to unscrew these plate screws. So again, make sure that the insole of your skate is taken out and that your laces are unlaced so we can see the inside of the boot. So with this step in the process, things might get a little tricky. That's where our Phillips head screwdriver comes into play, because while you're trying to unscrew these nuts right here, the screw head might keep spinning. So the Phillips head is not a definite necessity, but you might need it, so you might as well have it in front of you just in case. All right, what I like to do with this step in the process is I like to let the laces hang, fold that tongue all the way forward, and whichever nut you are trying to unscrew, put your thumb on that corresponding screw. And again, while you're trying to unscrew a nut, if your screw head keeps spinning, grab your Phillips head, put some pressure on it while you're trying to unscrew it. All right, enough talking. Let's get this plate off. All right, now that we have our plate off, all we see are our mounting screws. These can be a little tricky to sometimes get out. What I recommend doing is finding a flat surface that you do not mind possibly scratching up and pushing down on your boot. If pushing down on your boot does not work, what I would suggest is finding an Allen or hex key and pushing those screws through the bottom of the boot to try and get them out. Okay, now that we have all of our hardware taken out of our boots, you can put it to the side or save it. There's nothing wrong with saving it. Also, if there's nothing wrong with your Viper nylon plates, don't get rid of them. They're still good plates. Go ahead and dump your hardware out. And what we're looking for are 2 longer screws and 4 shorter screws. The longer screws are going to be placed in the heel of the boot, while the shorter screws are going to be placed in the middle and front of the boot. So once you have all this hardware pushed through the bottom of your boot, we can get ready to put our plate on. You're going to grab your plate. What I do is I put the heel part first, and then it just pushes down like so. After that, we can place our washers on all of our screws. Then, once you've put all 6 washers on, we can start putting our lock nuts on. Make sure when you're tightening these nuts on the inside of your boot make sure that the heads of your screws don't sink into your boot. You want them to be perfectly flush. And same thing as before, if your screw heads keep spinning, make sure to grab that Phillips head screwdriver and put pressure on it so you can get them tightened down. So now that we have all of our mounting hardware tightened down, we can introduce our two friends, our break-off tool or our pair of pliers. I guarantee that 99% of you at home do not have a break-off tool, but in case you do and don't know how to use it, I will show you, as well as using a pair of pliers in this situation. First, I do want you to see actually how long those poke out of the bottom of the boot. Basically, for the break-off tool, slide it onto your mounting screw, wiggle it back and forth, more pressure added every time, and soon enough it'll break off. And for the pliers, you'll simply do the same thing, grab onto it like so, and you'll start wiggling back and forth, more pressure added every single time. If we don't break these off, we're going to have some real problems while trying to skate. Breaking these 3 screws down here, I will be using the pliers, and these 3 up here, the break-off tool. I will now show you an example of breaking 3 of these screws off with each of these tools. Once all 6 of your mounting screws are broken off, take into consideration that once you break these off, these screw ends might be very sharp. You can use whatever preference of yours you have to take care of this, or you can use a hammer and tap the screws down, or using a metal file. Now that we are done mounting the plate to the boot, we can now assemble our plates. When you receive your Falcon plates in the mail, the kingpins come pre-installed, so don't worry about installing those yourself. The first thing we're going to do is grab our bottom washers and slide those down. We're next going to grab the 2 larger bushings, flipping them so the flat side is facing up, and sliding them down the kingpin. We are then going to take our 2 white pivot cups and place them in their designated spots. We are then going to take our trucks, put the pointed side in the pivot cup hole, and with the side with the opening onto our bottom bushing. Same with the other truck. Once the trucks are firmly placed on, we're going to take our 2 top bushings, pointed side facing up, slide them on. Now, we can put on our bushing lock washers, and lastly, we can take our kingpin nuts, ribbed side facing down, and hand tighten. If you have installed the 2 kingpin nuts correctly with the rib side down, while tightening, you should hear a clicking sound that sounds like this. During tightening, when the kingpin protrudes through the top of the kingpin nut and as resistance increases, make sure to proceed with caution, as over-tightening anymore could damage your kingpin. Also, make sure you are using a hand tool to tighten your kingpin nuts and not a power tool, as too much force during tightening can strip your kingpin. While skating, if you feel as if your plates are not tight enough and worried about damaging your kingpin, consider purchasing our harder bushing set. Now, all you have to do is put your bearings and wheels on, and the work can stop and the fun can start. Thank you so much for everyone for tuning in for today's video. I really hope I taught you something you didn't know, and if I did, make sure to leave it in the comments down below. As always, if you have any questions about any of our products, make sure to email customerservice@adamskates.com. Make sure to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms, because it's a good way to stay up to date on future price reductions and deals. Speaking of deals, you should visit adamskates.com or an authorized local dealer near you to find awesome skate products that won't break your budget. I'm Cameron from Adam Skates, and I'll see you in the next video.